The reason I played this deck for this tournament is actually more of, I have a lot of cards, I can build any fair deck. I have a lot of people that come along with me, like to play Legacy locals, and they like to build the blue decks, they like to play blue decks, they like to play the tier 1 decks. So this is like my fun deck, put it together originally just to have multiple decks, 2 or 3 decks. And then of the silly little fun decks I built, this is the only one that I was actually like, okay, this deck's actually really good. Like, this is a competitive thing. And so I've been playing this as like my fun deck when I'm building decks for other people for the last 2 or so years. My name is Hayden. The deck that I'm playing today is Loam Pox. Basically, it stems from the original deck, just Pox. And the big problem with Pox is that you deny all their resources, you use all your resources, and then you get in this awkward thing where like, you don't really have anything, they don't have anything, and then what? And then you draw Dark Writs and you die. So basically what the Life from the Loam engine does is it gives you Barren Moor as a way to just draw infinity cards, and it just gives you a big land toolbox that you can get back, and it gives you a bigger endgame, is what the Loam part of Loam Pox is. So it's basically the Pox deck with a better endgame. The biggest way this deck wins is that it doesn't lose. After this deck doesn't lose, how it eventually wins is either through Life from the Loam dredges or discarding. We have various ways that we're also discarding cards as our opponent is, such as Lily and Smallpox. You get a Nether Spirit in the graveyard, which just infinitely recurs. You hit them for 2 every turn. You can win with Mishra's Factory, and then kind of the like late game, like I win the game card is I play Worm Harvest, which it puts a 1/1 black and green worm into play for each land in my graveyard. Since I'm playing Life from the Loam, I'm dredging lots of lands in my graveyard. And it also has Retrace, which means I can cast it by discarding a land when it's in my graveyard, so I can just cast it turn after turn and get infinity worms. The biggest key card is Life from the Loam. You have Barren Moors, so when you have Life from the Loam with Barren Moors, you just have like, you're drawing 2 cards a turn. When you get 2 Barren Moors, you're drawing 3 cards a turn. If you have a lot of mana, you can cast Life from the Loam, get Barren Moor, cycle for Life from the Loam, recast it. You can basically just you can draw as many cards as you have mana to draw. You can also infinitely recur Wastelands. You can infinitely recur Cabal Pit, which is a land. If you have Threshold, you can pay 1 black, tap and sag it to neg-2 a creature. If you're playing against a creature deck, you can just keep casting Cabal Pit over and over again, and whenever they have a creature you need to answer, you Cabal Pit it. Whenever they don't, you could do something else that turn. If they get rid of your like key lands, such as Tabernacle, you can just get them back. You can also, if you're attacking with Mishra's Factories, blocking with Mishra's Factories, they die, get those back. So that's just like a big value card. That's kind of the linchpin of the deck. And then you have like your standard Pox cards, which are your Smallpox, your Sinkhole, and your Him. And those are just denying all your opponent's resources, getting them to like a starvation point. And then adding green also allows us to play Abrupt Decay, which is just an insane card, deals with a lot of permanents, can't be countered. So going through my mana base, it's bigger than most deck mana bases. We have our like standard, we need lands, we need to cast spells. So we run 5 fetch lands, 4 bayous. We need black, we need green. We play Mox Diamonds, that's kind of like a cheating lands. So game 1, we can be greedy and not play a swamp. We also play our own Wastelands, which are just really good in this deck with Life from the Loam. You can keep playing them, you can just Wasteland forever. We play 4 Mishra's Factories. That's usually our primary win con. It also is good on defense, it blocks. It's a card we want probably every game. And then like end game, we want multiples. The more we have, the faster we can win. We play 3 Urborgs. I play 4 Mishra's Factories, 4 Wastelands, also a Tabernacle, all of which don't tap for colored mana. Trying to hit double black can be hard. 3 Urborgs helps with that. It also, endgame, if we're at a low life, we can tap our fetch lands for black mana. So like that's another thing, or if we like run out of lands to search for. I play 3 Barren Moors. That's a built-in draw engine from Life from the Loam. And I can just cycle those, draw more cards, get them back. We play 2 Cabal Pits, which we use to kill creatures. The reason I was playing 1, I upped that to 2 because it doesn't come in play tapped. You tap it black, take a damage, which like early game you can take 1 or 2 damage. So it's like actually a fine land to play on turn 1 or turn 2 and cast things off of. We play a 1 of Bojuka Bog, which like it's kind of odd. It's better when you're playing crop rotations and you can like instant speed Bojuka Bog people. But in the main, it's like a nice 1 of that like you'll discard it to Lily, you'll discard it to Smallpox when it's not relevant. It'll end up in your graveyard. It's a nice like, I have 1 card in my deck to beat the unfair graveyard deck's main board. And then the final card is Tabernacle. It's legendary, so you never want to have two of them. It also doesn't tap for any mana, so like when they're not playing against creatures, it's actually bad. It's just it's a card that literally just does absolutely nothing. So against creature decks, especially when I can Wasteland lock them, if they have creatures out and I play Tabernacle, like eventually I can just get this point where they have no lands and all their creatures die and they can't play creatures, they can't do anything. It just beats creature decks. I also play a 1 of Entomb, and usually I'll get Life from the Loam with it, but I can also use it to get my bullet lands, such as Tabernacle or Cabal Pit, Barren Moor, whatever I want. I can tutor 4 with Entomb. And the reason I play 1 creature in this deck is this creature doesn't want to be played in decks except for decks that only play 1 creature in their deck. It's Nether Spirit. On your upkeep, if he is the only creature in your graveyard, he comes into play. And that's all it is. It's 3 for a 2/2. You don't want to cast him, but you dredge into him, you discard him off Lily, you discard him off Smallpox, and then he just comes in every turn. And then endgame, he wins the game. I can attack with him. And like if my opponent is playing, if their destruction isn't swords, if it's lightning bolt, if it's Lily, if it's abrupt decay, they can't actually kill him because they kill him and he just comes back. And once again, I can only play 1 of him because if there's 2 of them in the graveyard, they don't come back and that's awkward and then they do nothing. I play 1 of Maelstrom Pulse. It's kind of like a catch-all. Like sometimes they play Jace and it's really hard if they're fate sealing you to just fight it off with Mishra's Factory, really annoying. Sometimes they play other awkward permanents. It hits sneak attack, just hits lots of relevant permanents. Don't want to play a lot of them, don't really need a lot of them. The permanents that cost more than 3, I can usually keep them off that many lands to cast them anyways, but it's just a just in case. I also play Raven's Crime. Now, this is a card I can search for with Entomb. Raven's Crime is 1 black mana sorcery, target player discards a card. Not that impressive, much better discard, but it has retrace, so I can cast it again by discarding a land. So when I have lots of lands in my hand, especially when I can draw 3 lands turn with Life from the Loam, I can Raven's Crime someone 3 or 4 times a turn and I can just wreck their hand, they can't hold on to cards. I play 4 Abrupt Decays, really good removal spell, can't be countered, amazing against Delver decks, amazing against all decks, just destroys all the permanents that cost 3 or less. You know what it does. I play 4 Lilies. Lily's an awesome card. It beats creatures. You can play it, kill their creature, they play another creature because they're all right, it's at 1, I'll swing back and kill it. Then you kill that creature with Abrupt Decays or Smallpox. It stays around, just gives you tons of tempo. People can't beat its all just reasonable. And then against the non-creature decks, I just make them discard. I get my ult, it wins games. I play the 1 of Worm Harvest, that's my big win con, I win the game, get lots of 1/1 worms, that's another card I can retrace so I can keep casting it. And then my Pox cards, I play 4 Hymns, which is 2 cards at random. It's the best card advantage card I think in Legacy in terms of pure card advantage. They talk about cards card like Brainstorm's really good. It's not actually card advantage. You're not actually going up in cards. Him, you actively get 2 of their cards for 1 of yours. And it's random, they don't get to pick. Sometimes you can just beat people, you hit their 2 lands, they can't play things, they're done. I play 4 Sinkholes. Some decks play basic lands. When they play basic lands, you Sinkhole them. Also, it's good for if you're just trying to get rid of all their lands really fast and they're playing a land each turn, you can have a turn where you Sinkhole them and Wasteland them, get 2 lands 1 turn. It's good. It's probably not the best card in the deck. It probably could be something else, but I like it right now, played it today. It comes in and out. And then one of the best cards in the deck, the name of the deck is Smallpox. So, how Smallpox is, play 4 of them. Each player loses 1 life, loses a land, discards a card, and loses a creature. I don't play creatures, the creatures doesn't hit me. I can get my lands back, I can eventually come out on lands. If I played a Mox Diamond, I can be ahead on lands. When I'm Life from the Loaming, I have a lot of cards in hand to discard. It's just an insane card, gives me a lot of advantage. When they go land creature and I go Smallpox, I'm usually winning those games. And that's what it does. So my sideboard, if decks are playing Blood Moon, if they're playing their own Wastelands, if I feel like I need a basic land, I do have a basic swamp in my sideboard, I can bring it in. If a deck isn't playing any basic lands of their own, I can also bring in Ghost Quarters as my 5th Wasteland. And it's strip mine at that point. I have Karakas, I bring it in against Sneak and Show obviously, but it's also good against Death and Taxes. It's good against some other weird decks that I just know play a lot of legendary creatures. I play a Toxic Deluge because that card kills every creature. If you're playing against Sneak and Show and they show and tell Emrakul, you can go to 5 against that deck. You can actually just pay 15 life and kill it. It also kills all of the creatures that have less than 15 toughness as well. I play a 1 of Ensnaring Bridge. I like it when people can't attack me. It gives me a nice little cushion to set up, get a nice engine going with Life from the Loam and Barren Moor. So if I want to bring in Ensnaring Bridge, it's good against the faster decks where I need a little cushion to slow them down. I play a 1 of Maelstrom Pulse, which is just bring in a second Maelstrom Pulse for when I really need it. If they're playing things that cost more than 3, I bring in Maelstrom Pulse. I also bring it in against like Empty the Warren decks, so like Belcher, because I can Maelstrom Pulse, Empty the Warren's tokens, and kill them all. I have a 1 of Necroplasm. So this creature, it is a 3 mana for a 1/1 with Dredge 2, so I can keep casting it. On my upkeep, it gets a +1/+1 counter. On my end step, I destroy all creatures whose converted mana costs are equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So the turn I play it, on my end step, it destroys all 0 drops. So like Dryad Arbor, Memnite, not all that important. More important is the next turn it's in play, it destroys all 1 drops. Decks that play a lot of 1 drops, I have this board wipe that it takes a turn slower, but it costs 3 mana, and I can play it over and over and over again, and I can attack with it. And then next turn it destroys all 2 drops, destroys all 3 drops. Against a lot of decks, that's all their creatures. So in 3 turns, I destroy all their creatures, and I can just cast it every 4 turns. And then the rest of my sideboard is I have 4 Chalice of the Void. I only play 2 1-drops, so conveniently I can take them out, take 2 other cards out, play Chalice of the Void. A lot of decks are really weak to Chalice of the Void. A lot of decks can't beat a Chalice on 1. A lot of decks have a problem against Chalice on 0. So even if I don't have like my Mox Diamond 2 mana start, I can put Chalice on 0. And then my final 4 cards are Leyline of the Void. I hate playing against Dredge. Like, that's the big reason. It's just annoying. And then it's also good against a lot of other decks. It's good against Rug Delver. It's good against Reanimator. It's good against niche graveyard decks. I just wanted a good card to deal with graveyards. Didn't want to deal with graveyards today. My best matchups are decks that want to play a lot of creatures and not win very fast. So like your Death and Taxes is really good. Like I can just beat the actual deck Death and Taxes with a Cabal Pit game 1. It just beats them. It doesn't have a color, Mother Runes can't get around it, it beats them. But I'm particularly good against other slower creature decks. My worst matchup is decks that win on turn 1. I don't play Force of Will. I only play 2 1-drops. Like a lot of times I don't even have a turn 1 play at all. Also, a big problem right now is that a lot of people are playing Deathrite Shaman. That's a really good card against me. It beats my Wastelands in a way in that like they can stay ahead on mana, like it keeps them ahead of me. And then also it just takes the cards out of my graveyard that I'm wanting to loam, or like takes out my Nether Spirit, takes out my Raven's Crime. It's just a really good card against me. So Deathrite Shaman and fast combo decks would be my worst matchups. It is kind of like a fringe deck, and I like playing like kind of the off decks. Like I can build the best decks, whatever, but like this is fun. You're doing something different. Every time I play this deck, someone sees my deck and they're like, that's cool. They want me to tell them what I'm doing. Like people sitting next to me, the person across from me. Like I like playing this deck other people haven't seen and like making them think and like, okay, I know how to interact with Delver, but how do I interact with Loam Pox? And it's a game where I have a really interactive deck, I have to think a lot, and I like putting my opponent in a position where they have to think a lot. I like playing a game where no matter who wins, whoever wins actually deserves the win.